Right, hey guys, how we doing? This is the last video we're checking out from Annie News to do with Tower of God. This is every position in Tower of God explained. I'm really looking forward to this because that did seem to get brushed over quite a lot, and considering what we've been told through the cut content videos leading up to now, it seems like there is a lot more to be told about the positions. Like, it was so rough, right? You're going to throw spears and you can navigate the box things that float around in the air and stuff. It's just like, right, what actually are they? So let's find out. I've really enjoyed these videos. I really have. They've been great. They have been great. I wish I could have carried them on closer to the time the show was airing, but nah. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of lore in that to it, yeah.
So many unique concepts that are continuously being introduced.
Yes.
Some of which don't even make it to the anime.
Oh,
but
divine fish.
Whoa. Stand above the rest as ones of recurring importance. Of course, Shinsu is one of them. But another is the concept of the positions. The roles that any individual would take on while participating in a battle. While the anime did briefly mention these positions and their basic
very
there's definitely a lot
briefly.
more intricacies to each that are worth being explored.
Right.
Especially if you're planning to read on into the webtoon and want to understand
A few of you want me to read this as a series, and I don't know how I'd do it. I'll look into it.
In order to understand the positions, we first need to understand why they're necessary.
Yes, please.
Climbing the tower is usually a team effort. More times than not, battles within the tower are fought between teams. Whether it be during a test or even just a personal dispute.
Right, so each one gives some... It's like...
You're gonna want to take on these events
most animes, they have different abilities that help each other out.
And each member of a team is assigned a specific position.
Right, that makes sense, yeah.
Even
Cool.
the names itself originated when King Jihad first climbed the tower with his own team.
Oh!
Though, when they did it, they weren't fighting other people.
That's cool!
They were fighting divine fish like the white steel eels.
Oh!
It's the reason why the positions have aquatic-based names like Fisherman and Wave Controller. Though those names
that makes sense!
They're definitely crucial to fighting nonetheless.
Damn!
Sure, the battles may have changed from person versus fish to person versus person, but the way that they're fought are generally the same. Now, the first important thing to note is that every position requires the manipulation of Shinsu.
Shinsu, yeah.
In fact, it's how you manipulate Shinsu that determines the position that best fits you.
Oh!
It may seem like only wave controllers and fishermen have been doing it, but in actuality, every person who has a position has made a contract with the administrator. This allows them to use Shinsu in accordance with the needs of their position. So, with that as a little bit of context, let's start things off with the fishermen.
Okay.
Considering that people like Endodasi, Yuri, and Anak fall into this category, it only makes sense that these are your standard DPS.
Damage per second.
Combatants of every team. They excel at close to mid-range combat, and as such will always be found at the front line during a battle. In comparison to something like a wave controller or Lightbearer, this is a much less technical position. The only job a fisherman has is to eliminate their opponent with as much destructive power as possible.
Right, okay.
So
they're like, they're a tank.
Choose to use something like a needle, whereas an ignition weapon like this sword is much less common because of its high surface area. Any weapon with a broad surface becomes much harder to swing in higher densities of Shinsu.
Right,
That's
and
why
don't...
we only ever see needles or spears.
Yeah, because the further you go up the tower as well, isn't it? The harder they become to wield.
One of the most valuable assets a fisherman can use is body strengthening. The technique of manipulating the Shinsu around them to reinforce their body. It's the first thing a fisherman will learn when being taught Shinsu manipulation. Now, at mid-range, a fisherman would use something more like a reel. It works exactly like how a fishing reel does.
Yeah, you showed just that in one of the cut content things, because they don't actually use it in the anime.
Allowing it to be wound or unwound at the user's discretion to extend the
Yeah, but they made it look like it was the weapon she's using, but in the actual...
It was supposed to be a weapon that both Anak and Endodasi used against
Yeah.
In this scene here, Anak tied her green April to the end
To
of
the
her
reel.
and used it to try and touch Quan's tag. Then Endodasi also did something similar, except she actually succeeded in using her reel to steal Quan's badge when he was distracted.
That's sick, like,
So it's quite clear that a reel is just as important as a needle.
But
when
they
it
didn't
comes to
use
a
it.
fisherman's inventory.
Ugh.
Keep in mind, though, that inventories are a whole separate concept when talking about weapons.
Yeah.
Now, though, all you need to know is that every position has a unique set of tools that helps them to do their job better. Usually, looking at the type of inventory someone has helps to determine what position they are. For example, the ranker we saw during Serena's flashback was likely a fisherman because he had both an arms and an armor inventory. Look at most fitted to a Next, let's take a look at the position that works closest to the fisherman. The the scouts.
Do you see, you wouldn't even think
Unlike
about
the Fisherman
ranking them
or
as... that was an Attack on Titan
Scouts
logo there,
are
wasn't it?
more than They're lightly armed with barely anything so that they can swiftly and quietly move ahead to gather information. It's here that you'd find people like Quant, Shibisu, and Huts. As we've seen with Quant, ideally a scout is very quick, both on their feet and in their head. They have to be capable of moving extremely fast across long distances, plus be ready to react at a moment's notice. Being fast is only half the battle. Scouts must also be skilled at making split-second decisions. What I mean is that traversing into enemy territory isn't something that they can exactly plan for. They must always be ready to encounter the enemy
Always
and
prepared.
have a plan for when that happens.
Bam.
Even though the Fisherman is the core fighter, the scout will often be the first one to encounter the enemy. What they choose to do after that is completely up to them, and it will often have a significant role in dictating the outcome of the battle. They could retreat, they could continue to gather information, they could flank and coordinate an attack. There's so many options for the scout, which is why their ability to think quickly is such a crucial attribute for them. Shibisu may not seem like the best fighter, but he is very observant and is therefore good at relaying.
Well, yeah, he got them through that test, didn't he?
This is
Yeah.
something that more of a basic scout will do.
Oof.
On the other hand, a combat scout like Huts will focus more on backing up the Fisherman. One thing that is
I hate that they never explained how his swords work in the show.
Because
that was a cool concept, man.
During the hide-and-seek test with Quant, we saw him use a very standard scout technique known as
Blackfish.
It's a body reinforcement technique that uses Shinsu to block out the light of a lighthouse. By doing that, they've essentially removed the enemy's eyes and have made themselves practically invisible. Scouts also possess a device known as an observer that helps to assist with their reconnaissance. These are basically portable cameras that collect visual data and pass them on to the Lightbearer. It's an effective tool to immediately relay information, all of which goes towards achieving the scout's main goal of collecting data on the overall situation. That data is then handled by what's arguably the most important position on a team, the Lightbearer.
Lightbearers.
Behind every team,
Like,
there
come
is
on, explain how
usually a
these work.
strategist coordinating a plan.
Come on, please.
Someone who oversees the battle without ever having to step into it themselves.
Yeah.
This is because the Lightbearer uses a device called a lighthouse to gather, monitor, and control information. It allows them to not only have a solid understanding of the situation around them, but also gives them the ability to directly manage it. It's quite possibly the most useful asset to have on the field. That's why it often becomes a prime target for attack.
Right.
In a way, the lighthouse can serve as a team's lifeline. It's practically their entire command center. So, not only is the Lightbearer responsible for managing information, but they're also expected to defend their lighthouse as well. That's why they can't be useless.
Defend the logo. I love the logos he's using in
It's
this.
like having no defenses on your home base. But what exactly does this lighthouse do anyway? Well, the device itself is a cube that emits light, gathers information, and transmits commands. It's made from an ore called suspendium, a buoyant mineral where the higher the purity, the better it floats in Shinsu. It's for this reason
floats.
that lighthouses are typically graded based on their purity of suspendium. However, it's
Explained
not
that in one of
only
the cut
device that
contents, I
uses
do
this
believe.
mineral. Both pockets and inventories use it as well.
Yeah.
That's how everything is able to float.
That's why it floats, yeah. That's cool.
Without
It all
getting
makes
too
sense.
much into the
Ah,
logistics
Tower of
of
God's
the
world
lighthouse's
is so
functionality,
well
one thing
thought out.
actually worth noting is that it runs in units of cubes. The lighthouse itself can be divided into several cubes that can compress or expand into different sizes. So long as one of these cubes is set as the main cube, all the other divisions of it can be set up to do different functions, all of which aid in the gathering of information. One can be set up as a communication hub, while the other is set up as a display monitor and
Right.
another to record data.
You can use more than one at a
It's
time.
quite the versatile asset, which is why Lightbearers and their lighthouses are usually as far back from the front line as possible. Well, the ones that focus on creating the strategy are, anyway. There does exist a more frontline-focused Lightbearer who uses their cubes to assist in a more direct way. This could be something as simple as generating light via their cubes, or something more hands-on like manipulating Shinsu to amplify the attacks of your Fisherman. It could even be both at the same time. Whatever it is, it usually requires an extreme level of Shinsu control due to the sheer amount of multitasking involved. A frontline Lightbearer not only has to gather information and give out instructions, but also take part in the battle itself. They could even be monitoring and assisting in multiple battles at once. That's why their range of Shinsu control has to be large and their tactics on point. Kun is a perfect example of this, because he is both very cunning and strong. The way he's able to quickly take in all information, then formulate a
This
successful
little
strategy
plan. Yeah,
is a sign
man.
that he
To even
possesses
manipulate
one
the
of
people
most
into doing
important
stuff,
qualities of a
knowing that they're going to do it if you act and say,
Being strong, that is just a plus. probably the hardest to fulfill properly. You can be a pretty high-level ranker and still get outclassed by a single highly skilled Lightbearer. That's why the Lightbearer can sometimes become the strongest position on the team, even surpassing that of the Fisherman. Now, the position that's probably the least intricate is the Spearbearer. It's much more simple in terms of responsibilities, as they take on more of a
throw the spear.
As the name implies, the Spearbearer supports the Fisherman by throwing spears from a distance with pinpoint accuracy. At closer ranges, the Spearbearer will often be told to aim for the enemy's weak points, but at longer ranges, it's very much the equivalent to sniping. Their goal is to keep pressure on the enemy team by bombarding them with high damage long-range attacks.
Go ahead, Rack.
That's pretty much what someone like Rack will do.
Yeah.
Finally, we get to the position of BAM, the Wave Controller.
Wave Controller.
This is likely the rarest position to be placed into,
right.
Even more so than the Lightbearer. The thing about Wave Controllers, though, is that every single one of them fights differently. What classifies them into this position in the first place is their incredible ability to fight with Shinsu. Yes,
that was cool out of nowhere. It's like, whoa, what's going on? Why is he able to do that?
Shinsu to its utmost potential.
Good, Bam.
Remember, Shinsu is a substance of infinite possibilities. Therefore, literally anything can be done with it. So, it's likely that every...
Yes, and as soon as Bam sees someone do something with it, it just copies it. It's like, whoa.
Though when it comes to the overall battle, Wave Controllers pretty much fight to achieve a single goal. And that's to shift the tides of the battle into your team's favor. Much like the Spearbearer, they'll often be found on the back lines providing some sort of support from a distance. A type of support that involves anything and everything to do with Shinsu. Whether it be manipulating your opponent's flow of it, or using your own to create bang and strengthen allies,
Boom.
The Wave Controller has the ability to completely dominate the battlefield.
Damn.
Shinsu is by far the most central component of battle. So,
it definitely seems that way.
Has the ability to manipulate it well will often have the most
advantage.
Presence.
Yep.
Imagine someone like Yuga using his abilities to completely deprive your team of Shinsu.
Damn.
Your fishermen are now
you won't be able to do anything. Yeah.
Your lighthouses can no longer float.
Mm-hmm.
Your scouts can't hide, and your wave controllers can't fight back.
Wave.
It's a very extreme case, but if the power difference is that high, then it's entirely possible. Just like Shinsu, the wave controller has countless options when it comes to battle. It's just a matter of determining what's best for the situation. That being said, the most common technique that almost every wave controller will use is called the bang.
The bang.
It's the very first thing that they'll learn how to do.
And being able to create multiple bangs is a big deal, apparently.
Reason being that creating a single bang requires extreme levels of Shinsu control.
Right, here we go.
So much so that learning how to create just one is said to take over 4 years. So, the fact that Bam only took 2 weeks to do it himself is a rather phenomenal feat that really goes to highlight his overall potential with Shinsu. Of course, there's more to Bang, like its size and consistency, both of which go towards determining how strong it is as an attack. But that's more related to Shinsu itself than it is to the actual wave controller position. So, perhaps Shinsu could be a topic for another video. Anyway, that's pretty much what the wave controller does and can do. It is, however, important to note that just because wave controllers specialize in Shinsu manipulation, doesn't mean that they're necessarily the best Shinsu user.
Right.
As I said earlier, every position can use
Shinsu, just in a different way. Yeah, that's cool.
That determines the position you're placed in. For example, Anuk and Endodisi are currently the best Shinsu users out of the regulars, but that doesn't mean that they'll make for good wave controllers. There are, however, certain cases where a single person can take on multiple positions. There's no rule that says you can't specialize in more than one.
Oh, okay.
Huns is a good example of someone who could fit both the Fisherman and Scout role, and Shibisu would do fine as a Lightbearer as well. So, it's not like once your position is determined that
you stick to that. Right, okay.
I'm sure it also goes without saying that it's very useful for teams to combine the techniques of different positions together. Most notably when a Lightbearer combines their support with a Spearbearer or Wave Controller. But that's getting into some territory that we haven't yet seen in the anime. It would mean that we also have to talk about the other positions aside from the basic 5. Special positions more tailored to a specific individual and their unique powers. Once again though, that'll be a topic for another day.
Cool.
Anyway, that's everything on the positions and their responsibilities. I wouldn't say that any single team comp is better than the other, but I can speculate on what an ideal one would be. Given that teams are most often 8 people or less, my guess would have to be 2 scouts, 2 fishermen, 1 wave controller, 1 spearbearer, and 2 lightbearers.
Right, okay.
The reason I would have 2 lightbearers is so that I could have one focused on strategizing while the other would be a frontline support. That's just my opinion, though. Let me know
you could mix it all up, I suppose.
And
Depends
if
what
you
suits the
would like to,
team.
Then go ahead and drop some names as to who you'd think you'd want in each position. Now, as always, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this type of anime content, then you already know what to do. So, until next time,
Ciao.
ciao.
Decent. So that is all of the Tower of God videos from Annie News, and what I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to try and catch up on some ReZero. I'm going to probably do the first episode's cut content because I always like to see how they change opening episodes. Then depending on whether you guys enjoy it and, you know, we get the views, I might carry on reacting to ReZero cut content videos, but then again, I might not. Or I might just do ones that I think would be really interesting to see what they've changed, if you know what I mean. So I might not necessarily do all of them, but I might do some, if that makes sense. But anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave comments down below, let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos, and I'll see you guys, it's all you guys, next time.